Hello, thank you for joining me today. I'm Sandra Hayes, the owner and designer of Asher Addie Grace. I'm so excited to have you here today making an infinity bracelet, which you see me wearing right now. And what I really love about these bracelets is that it's one big continuous loop and it has many functions. So you can wear it as a wrist bracelet, an ankle bracelet, or even a necklace. So this is what the final finished product will look like. You'll see it's one continuous loop. And the way you place these on is you place the initial bracelet on your hand, and then you give it one wrap. And then depending on your wrist size, you can actually get a third wrap out of it. And then you just gently roll it up your hand. And this keeps it intact from breaking. So rolling is preferred over stretching it out over your hand. So let's start with the materials that we'll use for today's session. First, we'll start with your design board. And this design board, what I really like about this design board is that it enables various wrist sizes so that you can ensure that the beads you're going to use will fit the wrist that you're making the actual bracelet for. But for today's purposes, because we're making an infinity bracelet, we're going to actually leverage the periphery of the actual board. Other tools that you will need for today's session, if you don't have handy, I would grab a towel. A hand towel will do. And as you'll see here, I have my beads and materials all placed on this nice felt pad. But again, a hand towel will do. And this just keeps the materials, particularly the beads, from rolling around because they do have a mind of their own and can quickly roll off of the table. And then you'll spend your time searching for beads. Other materials that we'll use in addition to the beads today, we have these spacer beads here, which we'll place in between each of the beads. And then I have a few charms that I'll be leveraging for my project today because I like to have a little jingle jangle. This is another infinity bracelet that I made. We also have some scissors here, which we'll use at the end. Be very careful. They're very sharp. What I like about this style of scissor is that it's not hand dominant dependent. They can be used for left hand or right hand individuals. We'll also have our stretch cord. This is the cord that we're going to place the beads on once we finish our design. And then a container of nail polish. This will be an adhesive to reinforce the knot, which we'll place in our finished product to secure the beads onto the string. You can use other adhesives, either Hypo Cement or E6000 glue. What I like about nail polish is it's probably one of the easier to use. And it's practical. A lot of people have this in their home. It's just easier to adhesive. But again, you can use other adhesive options. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll start first with our design. So I'm pulling out my design board. There are various ways in which you can do this. So I like to start with each bead and put them in sections. But obviously for you, you can decide if you want to create a pattern with your beads or if you'd like them to all go in a sequential order. Then you can do that too. It's really up to you and how you want to do it. So I'm going to play around with this a little bit and see what I come up with. Now, as you lay out your beads, you want to really think about what colors do you want to touch each other. So as you see this laid out currently, if I leave this design as is, my red and green beads will touch each other. And I think I'd like to break that up a little bit. So I'm going to take some of these black beads and shift them to the end to break up a little bit of that red and green touch. So I've got 20 each of these various colors in this 8mm bead. You can also make this with larger beads of 10mm. You just want to be very intentional about the size of the spacer bead that you leverage if you use a larger bead, because it will impact the length of the actual bracelet. But the good news is if you find that it's too big for your wrist, again, you can always use this as an anklet or even a necklace. I've done both. Okay, I'm going to take these. I like a little shine in my beads. So I'm going to take these sparkly spacer beads and place them in between each of the black beads that I have. And that's going to give my bracelet just a little bit of shine and sparkle, which I really like. And the great thing about putting these on the design board is you can decide if you really like it or if you don't, and then you can do something different if you're not in love with your design. So what I'm doing now is I'm taking out one of these spacer beads because I've decided this is a good place for me to place one of my charms. And then I want to place another charm right over here in between the green and the black bead. All right, now I've got enough sparkle. So now I'm going to take these little flat spacer beads. They're black, and I'm going to place them in between each of my green and red beads. I didn't want to place these in between the black beads because it would just show black on black. And I wanted to break that up a little bit in the black bead, which made it a perfect place to put the sparkle. Now I'm going to have to push these down a little bit as I get prepared to put a little bit more sparkle between my spacer beads, my black spacer beads. So this is how it goes. You start designing and then you start redesigning as you decide you want beads to be at a different position. Um, all right, I think I feel good about where my sparkles are. We'll go back to the black spacer bead to place in between the red beads here. Okay, now I'm going to take a look at my design and make sure I feel good about it, because once you string it, while you can take it down and restring it again, it's not the most favored parts of a project if you do that. And so I like to start with taking a picture at times to make sure I feel really good about the design. But also you want to take a step back and look to make sure that you're not missing any beads or nothing's out of order, because again, it can be not the funnest of projects um, to redo your beads. So I would just take a moment and make sure you feel good about your design, and certainly be patient with yourself. If you don't like your design, redo it. That's not a problem. All right, I looked at everything. I feel like I have everything that I need. So now I'm going to get my cord ready to place the beads on. And so what you want to do with this cord is you want to start to section or stretch it out section by section and give it a pull. And this really helps once you start to wear the bracelet to ensure that the cord doesn't snap. So I like to give each section about 20 pulls. Then we'll pull out a little bit more and stretch that out as well. And as you can feel, it's a little bit tight when you first start pulling on it. Now we're going to give this another section, another 20 pulls. All right, and now we're ready to start stringing our beads. Now, what I like to do is I leave the string attached to the cord. So that way it acts as an automatic stop so that I don't have to worry about my beads falling off as I'm stringing them. However, if you have pre-cut cord, what can be very helpful is these little bead bugs or bead stoppers that you place on the cord. to help the beads from rolling beyond that point. But because I'm going to leave this on the core today, I'm not worried about that as much. So I'm going to start stringing my beads. The other critical component when you are stringing your beads is you want to start with a bead that has a big enough hole that it will actually hide your knot. So I'm going to actually start here with this veil bead that I have. My charm is on a bead that has a nice hole that will make a really great hide a bead hole. So I'm going to start with that. And I'm just going to string it here on this. And then I'll go to the right to ensure that that is my, you want to start with that to be your either first or last bead. These beads have really nice size holes, all of them that I'm using today. So it's making it a lot easier to string the beads on because they fit really nicely and easily on the cord. What I'm doing is putting my uh, charm back on because I want to make sure that they're facing the same way. Each of the charms that I place on. I recommend doing a little bit of hand exercises throughout, particularly with these infinity bracelets, because there's a lot of stringing that's happening all at once. So it's good to stretch your hands out throughout so that you don't get cramps in them later. Good to just check throughout and spot check, make sure you're not missing any beads that you intended to go in between. We've passed the halfway point of stringing the beads. I'm always excited when I reach that milestone. Okay, I'm running a little bit out of string. I'm going to give this, let this slide down just a little bit. And then I've got to pull out a little bit more cord, give it a stretch. And then I can continue my journey of stringing the beads. We're almost at the end of the road. All right, now we have a bit of a victory lap that we can do. So now that we have all of our beads strung onto the cord, you want to hold on to the cord very tightly and then take your scissors, again, very safely, and just do a quick cut. All right, yay, we're there. Now what we're gonna do is tie a knot. So it's almost like tying a shoestring. So first we're gonna cross over and then tuck underneath. And then you wanna give it a nice tight pull. Not so tight that you break it, but tight enough that you get your string close together. Now we're gonna do what we call a surgical tie. So you wanna cross over once more and then tuck underneath one time and then give it one more underneath loop and then pull. We're going to do two more surgical ties. So cross over, tuck underneath, give it another tuck underneath and then pull. And then let's look at our knot, see if it'll still fit in the hole. I think, yes, it will. So I think we can do one more tie. Cross over, underneath, and then give it a nice pull. All right. Now what we'll do is grab our nail polish and we're going to just put a little bit of nail polish on our knot to give it some additional reinforcement. I like to do the nail polish before the string so that it's easier for me to find the knot. And as you can see, I'm just placing this right onto the actual knot. Put that to the side. We'll let that dry for a second. And then what you can do is take your scissors and get in really close, but not so close that you cut the cord, and then just trim. Be very careful when you do this, because I have on occasion cut in the wrong spot and then my beads have gone flying over the room, which is not fun. Okay, so now we have our knots, and then what you're going to do is gently pull so that you can pull this knot inside of your bead, your barrel. If it's too big, it makes it harder to get inside there. Okay, now our infinity bracelet is finished. You typically want to let this dry for about 24 hours before you place it on. But just to give you an example of how this will look, right? So as we place it on, this is our finished bracelet product. And you can play around with it and so that it shows in different ways. But that is the finished product. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this session.